Okay, we'll run through a bunch of games that we played this year, and yeah,
Some
we
of
can
the
just
main
give.
visuals.
Yeah, we do
Some
have visuals for. Well, we. Oh yeah, pretty much a lot of games that you have played, you don't have visuals for, but all the games that I have played, we have visuals for. So Desperados 3, the de facto strategy game, it's incredible. It's just it's so good. It's like an ode to like classic kind of like action sort of RPGs, even though it's not action. It's kind of like a strategy RPG, even though it's not really turn based. I think they call them like tactical. Yeah, it's like an isometric tactical strategy game, but it's like the best at what it does and what it's trying to do. It's
Yeah.
just so it's so strategic and so tactical, very difficult as well, but also just brilliant. But
Yeah.
it never gets. I don't really know of people like I very rarely hear of Desperados and even the series, and they have the other one. I think it's can't remember which other one that they make. It's like the shadow. They make what, a Japanese inspired
It's
one.
a ninja kind of based
Yeah,
samurai
yeah,
one.
that's it. Yeah, exactly.
It's a
And
it's a 2022 one.
yes, it is
Like
good.
this is like kind of Wild West themed, and like there's so
Absolutely.
much to kind of go through. Good character. Again, there's a lot of hidden gems in there if you love like exploring to
Yeah,
like encourage you to be in the game or as like linear and direct as you want to be, as sneaky as you want to be. Like
yeah.
it's a very good game, I have to say.
100% recommend Desperados. It's fantastic. Grindstone. Man, I this could have been a number three,
Could have
definitely.
been, yeah.
It was almost a bet to sneak in there if not for like Spelunky and Loop Hero, but yeah, Grindstone is absolutely insane, and it just kind of takes the that match three kind of formula, like very tried and not tried but trite and kind of boring and well trodden at this stage. It's just kind of
Yeah.
very worn
It's
out.
kind of, it's Crush.
It's true.
This is a great one. I know it's on
It
Switch.
is on Switch. No, it's just on Switch and Apple Arcade. It's on mobile Apple
It's
Arcade. Yeah,
really good. I got this after watching it.
spectacular.
There's a nice little story. It's not a main feature. It's a real kind of like dungeon buster, like
Yeah,
power ups you can get, like potions, you can get like armor, you can get like bonus levels, and it's
yeah,
just going through and trying to line up as much like point worthy like connectors as you want. You're
yeah.
kind of going around as like I don't know his name, the blue guy, trying to defeat all these little
Jorge.
Jorge, like
Yeah, yeah.
all these little characters kind of theme like
It's
going
very
on like
cute, but it's a very serious strategy. Like it's not serious, but it's a charming kind of cartoony take on the a match three,
yeah.
but it's also so intuitive, and I've just never seen a game kind of do this before with that sort of like match three puzzler. It's just so different and so spectacular. 100% recommend Grindstone.
Yeah.
Fabulous game. Definitely pick it up. Our old, our old dear Stardew, the
This
classic.
January 2020 lockdown again, as everyone knows, for 2021, and it was great. We were playing it on Switch so that like at each other's homes when we weren't able to like visit, like to
Yeah.
do like social distancing and everything, and it was just. I love this game. This is like my next like 2022 because it's now on. I'm gonna get it on Game Pass because it's
Yeah,
just
it
coming
just
to it.
released on Game Pass. Yeah.
I'm gonna like do this into my stream as well as like just a comfort game. This is the ideal comfort game. If like there's so many different things. Like when we were playing it, it was so interesting how we both played it slightly differently, but we
Yeah.
were obviously playing it together. Like I love the farming and animal side of it. You did a lot of the fishing and
Combat side.
the combat side in the mines. It is so good. It is absolutely so lovely. We kind of like started to waver off of it and came back again for like when it got the DLC kind of like update
That's true.
expansion, and I can't wait because
Yeah.
this is one that I want to come back to and cover because there's like different maps and different ways you can play it, but also there's now a board game coming out of it for comfort, which
That is true. In fact, it's already out.
it's out kind
Yeah.
of 50-50 with it. I think I'd get it more so for the nostalgic points. My selling point
Mm.
for the board game, as well as this, is you can either play it individually or you can play it with people, and it's like a top down. Again, it's that pixel art that I love. It's that old school kind of game. And most enjoyable, notable, I think it's 2022 it's coming, is the next game from themselves.
That's right, actually. In fact, you say themselves, it's just one man. Yeah. Concerned Ape, Eric Barone. Yeah, it's a Hotel Chocolatier, is it? Yeah, that looks incredible. True.
Style, but it's a spooky theme. Like there's like gonna be
Yeah.
ghosts in it from what you can see. It's gonna be a
Yeah.
little spooky stuff. It's gonna be it's a comfort game. If
Yeah.
you just sit and play and not have to really think and you just want to play something, this is a great game that I would suggest anyone who hasn't played it, play it.
It's the best comfort food game you could ever go on. I mean, Animal Crossing in the ditch, play Stardew Valley instead. Dicey Dungeons. Yeah, this is one of the main reasons I love this is because the roguelite is just that loop is so addictive. The gameplay loop is just so easy to kind of keep going, and it's so lighthearted as well. It's very hard to explain the gameplay of it. You kind of come across these different biomes and fight kind of monsters, but it's all to do with like randomized dice rolls, and I think it perfectly matches that sort of RNG, just randomly getting dice that you don't need, but it's also so lighthearted that nothing really matters if you lose. You can just kind of like start again. Whereas if you were very much invested and had a lot to lose, then and you got a bad dice roll on a hand, then that's the end. But it doesn't do that. The game is so lighthearted. It's very charming. Love the artwork, and one of the best things about the game is that it's Irish, made by an Irish dev. And yeah, just love this game. It's just so wholesome and so nice. I know that you didn't play it, but you did play this.
I did play it for a little bit on your Switch.
Oh,
I
you did.
Switch,
Yeah, and you know how it's good.
It's good.
Oh my goodness.
This game.
Oh my god.
This game.
How does Crusader Kings even exist? How does this game exist? It's just Crusader Kings is absolutely phenomenal. It's just like I it's not even a 4X kind of, it's just a kind of a world strategy, overworld strategy simulator, historical simulator, I suppose you could call it. People haven't played this game. It's a very hard, I would say Crusader Kings is a hard sell to anybody who isn't into like very slow moving. Oh man, is it slow? But in a good way. In a good way, it's slow. Like I think that's part of its appeal is that it's so strategic and so accurate. Maybe not accurate, but well, in the sense that how its systems are set up with councils and combat, and it is a bit of a slow burn, but you do feel that incredible sort of payoff and that satisfaction of when you have a goal that you just accomplished. But the Crusader Kings is only as good as you make it because there's no objectives to it. So you can become, say, not a duke, but say a ruler over a certain county in Ireland, say. Well, over it's yeah, it's
You played it individually. It's so interesting because also you create your initial character and it could be as long as you want or as short as you want.
true.
Like
It's unending. I mean, the game technically has an end when you reach a certain year, but it takes dozens and dozens upon maybe hundreds of hours to reach that. And like I was saying, I think the best way to summarize Crusader Kings is it's only as good as you make it in your head because it doesn't give you objectives. It just gives you a place of land, say if you want to own a place of land in Leinster or Munster, and then you try and take over all of Ireland, but you do this with your council, and you make like strategic relationships with the owners of certain land in certain areas, and then you marry into those families. It's very like a military sim or a military medieval sim, kind of political medieval.
it's like
Yeah, it's true actually. Yeah.
Ireland, sorry, and started to fight to take over Scotland. And on our like dual game, it's I'm like Southern Ireland, you're Northern Ireland, like straight across the center, like Galway kind of cut off point.
Yeah, and we
No, just
share
like six
Ireland straight
months.
across the board.
Uh,
King, queen,
yeah,
queen, king. Yeah,
yeah,
it's amazing. But that's
it's
because we set that ourselves. We were like, let's try and
that's
become
so
king or queen. The game didn't tell us to do
no
that. It, we
celebration.
came up with it. We
Yeah,
came up with that idea, and then we kind of made it happen through the game. It's like a sandbox, but it's also not really so open ended that you could do anything. It's also kind of guided in a sense that you, yeah,
challenging.
true, yeah, and you can get upgrades and perks for your family tree and your bloodline, and you have when you have kids, like they can inherit traits from their parents and to marry into the
Oh,
right
it's
bloodline to get intelligence or strength. You can murder your brother and sister or your wife to gain influence in certain regions or certain areas, or to gain like deeds to the land, and you can like
make
obtain different duchies and
claims.
make claims on lands
And
and de jure
so
claims, and you carve out your council, and the council can be good and bad at certain things,
mhm.
managing money and developing castles, strongholds, keeping people happy, not letting rebels or like rise throughout the ranks and over trying to overthrow you. You can get spies that you can spy on other factions. You can assassinate other factions. They can spy on you, and you can try and foil their assassination attempts.
Yeah,
How does this game exist? It's so big. Like
so
from a
much.
programming and development perspective, it's huge.
We're playing number three. Like
Three,
there's
yeah.
two other games, and isn't there like a fourth one? Is there a fourth
There
one?
is
No,
no
it's just
fourth
three.
one, but it's made by Paradox, and Paradox have a whole series of different games like this. They have like military based ones, they have Victorian era based ones, and Crusader Kings is like their medieval based one.
See what
Yeah,
it's like. But this is
yeah.
great. Like you just gotta go and you set the things. I would highly recommend anyone who's like interested in trying it to try it if you're like being hesitant. It's on Game Pass.
It is on Game
So
Pass.
you can get it as part of like your tenner a month, like no problem. That's how I have mine.
Yeah,
It's comfort enough that like you download it, you play it, and like you get on with it. The one thing that annoys me is the random raiders that come in and just suddenly like you can't do anything about it. Like whatever about
yeah.
being able to do something about someone who wants to come fight you. Like if James suddenly decided to stab me in the back, like at least I could react to it.
That's true.
He'd get a good kick, but like I'd react to it.
I would never do it.
The raiders. This is why we haven't played the game in a while. I don't trust it. But the raiders, the random computer generators that come in and they raid you, and you can't do anything. You can't fight them
That is
back.
a bit annoying in
That annoys
fairness. Yeah,
me
it's if you don't have a military ready to stop it, they can just appear on your shores and take all your money, and it takes so long to move a military.
I wouldn't play the game for it. It's just
Yeah.
when it does happen, you're like, gosh darn it! Like I don't need this right now. I'm trying to take over England.
Anybody that's into simulator games, or political kind of thriller,
Medieval.
medieval style, military kind of strategy games, absolutely play this. But it is extremely intimidating and extremely complex and
Oh yeah.
complicated from the beginning. But once something clicks, it just clicks, and then you get it. Like you
Yeah.
just you're like, okay, this game
Because
rules.
it's you. I did not. No.
You didn't even play the tutorial, and I was like,
You do
that was
want to
incredible.
because like you can do the tutorial, or it's a smart enough game that if you just start into one, even with someone who's already played it, it will prompt you to do things. It tells you kind of
It does.
issues like, oh, a vassal wants a role, or uh,
That's right. It
you need to
prompts
do
you.
something. It's
Yeah,
prompting
it does. If there's something happening,
you. Yeah,
yeah.
which I love because some tutorials get really under my skin. And I'm just like, I just
That is
um,
cool of you though, because you always want to jump straight into the game,
yeah,
and I do love that attitude because, like you're saying, especially with Crusader Kings, you only really learn by doing. And it's just for me, I just like to at least know what the little tools do in the game.
the game is so expensive. You didn't finish the tutorial because it was like a
In
4 hour
fact, I
tutorial.
didn't. It is
You
so
were
long.
fine.
And the tutorial could probably be 50 hours if it wanted. I mean, I'm about 50 hours playing the game, 60 hours maybe, if not more, and I still don't really know what
Yeah,
half of the
there's
things do
still new
or
things to do.
every single session I have of this game.
It's great.
Either way, it's amazing. Such a good game. Definitely
It's great.
recommend it. Very scary at the start and very intimidating. And there's a lot going on the
Real.
screen, but so good. 100% recommend it.
Yeah,
This could have been number three, but it was released last
it
year.
could.
But we only got the PC this year, so it's still eligible technically. So, yeah. But the next game, Ori and the Will of the Wisps. Yeah, I played the first one on Switch, and it was incredible. Love that game.
Yeah.
But the second one, I think, is just so much better because it starts you off. You hit the ground running. You get all of your abilities much faster than
The
the
first one.
first one. The first one is kind of a not a slog, but it's more steadily released over the game. In
Story development.
yeah, absolutely. And but the second game, you get your abilities back that you had in the first game much faster, and then introduces you to newer abilities later on in the game. It's phenomenal. The art style is incredible. Um, the gameplay is tight, although the jumping feels a little bit floaty. Or he kind of like floats around when you're jumping. He kind of like is a little bit floaty. It's not, it's yeah, it's not completely directionally fixed. It's not as maybe tight as say like Hollow Knight or something, which is kind of accurate. But yeah, Ori does feel floaty, but not in a bad sense. It fits the style of the game, and it's not supposed to really be well, I suppose it is meant to be a platform, but that's just this style that they chose to move Ori in, and a little bit floaty. But I love the abilities in it. I love the art style. The story is really cute. I can't remember the
So
name
cute.
of the owl that you accompany, if it even does have a name. But yeah, it gets really the game gets kind of sinister and very dark. The later on you get into the
Yeah.
game, and there's a lot of kind of like weird kind of graveyards and like evil owls and like crows and stuff like that. So, very cool though. Yeah,
Very so
yeah, I would recommend to pick up like Ori. It is a classic. Cyber Shadow, yeah. Supposed to be a good game, reviewed pretty well overall in like media outlets and reviewers and stuff. I just couldn't really get into it. It's a side-scrolling action kind of retro themed 80s synth wave sort of style
it's in your specials.
platformer. Yeah, you would think these are just all the games I've just played this year alone. But yeah, it's good, and I just don't think I gave it the time that it kind of deserved. I feel like it's trying to be the messenger. If the messenger didn't exist, this game would be incredible, but it's too easy to make comparisons to the messenger. So I think that I love the messenger, that's why I got this, but it didn't hit with me. So I just feel like if you wanted to play this or the messenger, play the messenger. Root, amazing. The board game or the video game adaptation of the board game.
Yeah.
um yeah, I'm so happy we didn't spend €90 on the board game and got this for €7 on sale. I know, harsh criticism of the board game, but I think that it just the video game just does it more. Not the
Better.
good service, but you don't have to spend an hour setting the game up. Uh, it runs the game for you a little bit better.
Yeah.
I know the board game is great, and the whole idea of obviously
Yeah.
board games is a social element, but it's just
I think the is an aesthetic thing that I'd love to get. I would still love eventually at one point. We don't play, I think, the computer as much as probably we could be, but the one thing I will say against it is I'm glad we got the computer like version, not the board game, because it is an intense game. There's a lot to do. Like
it is full on.
there's four factions.
There's a lot of
There's
rules.
factions. There's certain things for each. Like you can get a different game out of depending on how you play each one. There's one faction that you've played. I played once. I can't get my head around it. Is how the like
The
there's
crows.
birds. The birds in
Yeah.
don't you have the rogue, and then you have the kind of villagers, rebellion kind of stuff, like the little mice and such.
Yes. Yeah.
But it's absolutely amazing. I love the computer version rather than the board game version because it prompts you. And I
It
think
does, yeah.
that's a big thing for this game because there's certain things that you can't do under certain conditions.
That's true.
And thanks to the computer game, it prompts you and lets you know what you can and can't do and how to turn over your roll and everything. So
Yeah,
I definitely would suggest if anyone's looking at the board game of it, get the computer version. That's the one you want to start with and see what you think.
absolutely. I just think that, like you're saying with the prompts, I think that the prompts add a lot to the game and help to speed a normal game up, whereas the board game, you could be just faluting around the place a little bit, if you know what I mean.
Someone's gonna cheat. Someone's not gonna like.
Oh yeah.
So you're gonna twist those like rules for yourself. I think.
Yeah, there's a lot of opportunity I feel too if you're not on a like playing the video game version, that there's a lot of opportunities to kind of like twist the kind of rules and forget a lot of the prompts and systems
Yeah.
in place. There's a lot of kind of small finicky things that I just don't think it hits right. But what does hit right is the artwork. It's phenomenal, absolutely sensational. I do recommend the video game version though.
Yeah.
I'd say give it a test. It's only €7 or so when it goes on sale, but yeah, it's a really fun board game to play. I'm just glad I didn't spend nearly €100. That's
It's been
true.
done yet. There's a clock.
There's an even newer one with badgers and stuff, I think, in it. Yeah, crocodiles and badgers or something.
Yeah, it's like those. Yeah,
Yeah.
I think I would be interested in trying them because it is a very nice, like simple game. It's kind of again, it's turn based. It's kind of
Mm,
similar to Hero, kind of like continuous, like movement kind of thing,
yeah.
and very good. I would recommend it.
Yeah.
I
Oh yeah. Absolutely. Bless our hearts. Age of Empires 2 Divinity. Divinity? Divinity. I've been playing Divinity way too much.
yeah.
Definitive Edition. Honestly, the best interpretation of this game. And you would hope it is because they've amalgamated all the best parts into it.
Nice.
When I got the PC at the start of this year, my first kind of gaming PC, I was not expecting to play a near 20-year-old game as much as we have. We play Age of Empires 2 almost on a weekly basis, regardless of if there's some sort of event going on or if there's some sort of prompt to get us back into the game, or yeah, it's just comfort. I mean, it's just so good, and they've upgraded the graphics. It's like now HD and it's super like high resolution. It's just spectacular. Like it's just the best iteration of the game that there has been. And they're still adding to it. They're still making DLCs for it and new factions. I think there's nearly
Two.
40 factions now
Yeah,
in it.
just two.
Mhm. Yeah,
I love this game. I don't think I'll ever not play Age of Empires 2.
I think this game is a permanent place on our hard
Um,
drives, etched into our hard drives. Yeah.
LAN parties,
LAN
huge
parties. We played
LAN
in LAN
parties.
parties as well. Yeah.
Even we started exploring into the
Yes. Yeah, yeah, they did the co-op campaigns. That's true, and they work really well. And in fact, they've even added a lot more campaigns to those. Even as of like just 2 weeks ago, they're adding new
yeah,
campaigns, so they're constantly updating the game. And there's a lot of great support to the game. There's a lot of rebalancing, and it's even kind of seeing a lot of a big resurgence on YouTube. And they support a lot of like World Cups and the Wololo
yeah,
tournament on Twitch and stuff. So yeah, Microsoft really have like really expanded in the Age of Empires in and the
it's so
marketing
great.
giant that it is. It just seems to be everywhere right now, and it's a
So
huge resurgence in it, which is amazing.
great.
True, true.
There's a
Yes, yeah,
great Christmas events, summer events, and
yeah.
like Halloween, and like I think we love doing those events because you get like certain like you have 5 different days like of goals to do, and it's a great way of excuse to just like I just want to like fight people, and like you just get in, you build a little city, build your little army, and then go like fight people, and um
We've played hundreds of hours, yet we have never played one multiplayer game against a human.
yeah,
That's just too far. That's gone too far.
we-
Mm.
all, all the Steam like badges that you can do, and that's what got
Yeah,
us into like
they're great
campaign
achievements.
system.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
achievements is a better word than badges. Thank you.
Yeah. Although they do appear as badges on your Steam profile, but yeah.
It's definitely one I will keep forever, and it should be just everyone should try it.
Ah,
At least try it.
strategy games come and go, but Age of Empires will permanently be
Yeah.
etched on the solid state drive. Oh my god. I forget what order these are in, by the way, so I have no idea what's turning up next. Oh, Subnautica. Oh, what a great game. What a frightening. Actually, I think Subnautica could be listed as one of the scariest games of all time, even though it's not a horror game. It should be a horror game, but it is not a horror game, so to say, marketing wise. Like you wouldn't bill this as like a scary game, but when you were playing there, it's that fear of the deep, the depths. So you are playing as this survivor who survived a spaceship crash in like the future, and like you crash onto a planet that's inhabited by in the sea. You crash land in the sea, and you have like this kind of capsule that you live in, and you scavenge for like food, and it's like a survivalist kind of game. You collect resources to build bigger ships and submarines, and you try and like build your ship so that you can go down to like the deeper depths where the big bads and the scaries reside. And
Those big sharks.
yeah, oh man, it's so scary. Like the deeper down you go, the less light there is down below, and then like just the opportunity. When you hear those leviathans in the background, you can hear them before you see them. It's like, nope, straight to the surface, and you're gone. It's gone out of the game. In fact, the game is deleted off the heart. It's gone.
So if you
The king of dad jokes, or the queen of dad jokes, one might say. Yeah, I would absolutely recommend Subnautica. We've never played the latest or the new update or the new one. Yeah,
ice space.
yeah, I can't remember the name of it. Deep the below depths or something. I can't quite remember, but it's based, yeah, like you're saying, in ice. It's the same idea. Feel like if you played Subnautica one, you pretty much played Subnautica the second one.
Yeah.
It's not much different to the first
Yeah.
Subnautica, but I absolutely would do recommend Subnautica. I think it was free on PlayStation. Network they were giving away for free, but it's relatively cheap anyway. I think I got the game for about €20. Yeah, really good game. It's very, very, very long though. You can put maybe like a good like 50 plus hours in the
Yeah.
campaign, and still like it's as long as you want to make it. I mean, it has a direct clear path to the campaign, but you still do need to find it. Again, it hits that, like I was saying earlier with Loop Hero, it hits that wall where you need to get find extremely rare resources, grind resources to progress the main story, and that is just not, that doesn't cut it nowadays. I think the time is just too valuable to be spent, unless obviously you're hardcore into these type of games in Subnautica. But for the average player who likes to play loads of different games, that like hitting those kind of like roadblocks where you have to find these super rare resources and spend hours trying to find them just doesn't really cut it for me.
Yeah.
And yeah, but overall, Subnautica is still excellent. The best horror underwater simulator. If you fear underwater and dying in the depths and the darkness underwater, do not play this game. But if you're sort of a masochist who loves that, I would
Yeah.
absolutely say that this is the best game you could possibly go for, because you feel it in your heart, like you in your stomach as well. You feel like that crunch. It's really good, and I totally recommend it though. Iron Harvest. So this is a game I'm not really too sure if you played. I only played this for about 5 hours though, but it was enough to kind of make me have like a very strong opinions on it. I thought so. Iron Harvest is based in the Scythe universe. So the Scythe board game. It's basically a real-time strategy game based in the world of Scythe. So what could go wrong? We love Scythe the board game. What, and this is inspired by the classic Company of Heroes. It's good. The worst thing I think about it is that I got Age of Empires 2 and Iron Harvest within a week of each other. And that was enough to kind of like knock it off. The game is good, and when I played it, there was a lot of weird balancing issues, and the readability of the map wasn't immediate. It just, it was hard to know what certain units did without putting hours and hours into the game. there was a lot of weird pathfinding issues in the game. It was kind of bugged. If you were to like click to go an area, the robots would kind of move around and weird, and then go to an. It was kind of weird. And then they were also charging like it was €50 for the game. I think I got it for like 33. But then shortly afterwards, they had this announcement where they were permanently cutting the game down to I think €20, and I think it's actually on sale on Steam as of right now. And I'm talking for €10. Yeah, it. I don't. It has the building blocks of an excellent game, and the systems in place are really good, and they're kind of really different. The campaign is very entertaining. The voice acting is a little bit naff. It's based in Eastern Europe and has some really dodgy Eastern European accents. But it's still they have really nice campaigns, and like the campaign is set up in a sort of a it's set up really nice cinematics and everything. But it's just overall, I just think that it misses its mark as a real time strategy. It's too close to that Company of Heroes template from 20 years ago. That okay, I'll move on to. I know you're
No,
yawning.
sorry. Sorry, I just like I was trying to like set like my breathing. Sorry. No,
No,
honestly. But the funny
I know it is a bit of a yawn.
the funny
It's
thing
not that bad of a game,
game on the computer, like, and we literally just played it just yesterday. That's
and it's
another.
brilliant.
It's another one where you just need one person to own it,
Sure.
invite someone else to come play it, and we played it, and it actually went really well. I thought, like it's
Well, Wendy, if you hold your statement for another couple of minutes, you will see something may pop up. Um,
can, but it didn't. Can you?
no.
It is
Yeah,
in here.
Picross on the Switch. Picross is a classic game. So hard to explain what this game is, but I recommend it on Switch. They're only about a tenner. They go on sale pretty regularly. They're only like 4, 5, €6, depending on. They release like one of these games every like 4 or 5 months. But they're really great puzzle games. Kind of like a weird mix of Sudoku in a way, but it's not really. Picross is its own kind of puzzle game in its own right, but it's very hard to explain it here. But I recommend it. Pathway played it during the summer. Um, it's kind of like a top-down pixel art Indiana Jones story where the kind of Germans, World War II, Nazi sort of are going to like the desert to find artifacts, and you play as like this kind of band of sort of heroes who are trying to stop them and stuff. And it plays like XCOM. It's kind of a turn-based strategy, and you build your team and stuff. Um, has the building blocks of what should be excellent, but there's something about the game that just doesn't hit. It's kind of janky. The UI is very complicated. I played this on Switch. Kind of finicky. You have to use the shoulder buttons a lot to kind of select menus, and just not very intuitive UI. And then couple that with the gameplay is sometimes the strategy is a bit too basic and a bit too simple. Has a good game at heart, and I know Chucklefish published this, and they have a track record of making some really nice games like Wargroove, which I really enjoyed. So, but this just doesn't quite hit the mark. Pillars of Eternity. I played this during the summer. I got it free on Epic Games. It's like a D&D simulator. It's one of the best probably D&D simulators without Divinity Original Sin. So I think it's actually closer to I think Pillars of Eternity is probably a closer representative of D&D than Divinity Original Sin is. It's just brilliant. If you play D&D, it's essentially that, but an original video game with its own stories and characters.
Kind of top down.
It is. It's an isometric, yeah, top down. Kind of has this kind of interesting sort of Diablo style, like late 90s kind of PC sort of strategy, pixel art sort of aesthetic to it. Yeah, an interesting graphics. But when I say interesting, I don't normally that's meant in like a bad connotations that it's a bad thing. But it's actually really, I really enjoy the graphics in this. Really enjoy the story. I think I only have about 30 hours in, which is nothing in these kind of RPGs. That I only feel like I'm only kind of getting going, but it's spectacular. I really do enjoy it. I just felt like at the time I was playing other things, and yeah, I kind of just kind of naturally lost interest in it. I think you can have 4 members in a party as well, which is like unlike other kind of D&D inspired games like Div, you can only have 4, but you can have 6 in this, I think. So I think I said 4 party members. I meant to say you can have 6 party members in this, and it kind of gets very kind of like intense. But it's excellent. Oh, Grifflands! I was playing Grifflands for so long this summer. Grifflands is kind of like a card game, kind of it's a take on this Slay the Spire and how popular Slay the Spire was. But Grifflands, you have 2 decks to manage. You have a combat deck, and then you have a moral kind of conversational deck where you have like arguments with people, and you have to counteract their arguments with certain cards. It's really, really good, and I think it's my most played game on Switch this year. It came out in the summer, and there wasn't that many other games that came out in the summer alongside Switch, so I had a lot of time to put into this game. Grifflands is really, really good. It's really good. I still think that Slay the Spire still takes the crown for card games and roguelites and stuff, but Grifflands is excellent. Is an excellent take. Probably the best take I've seen on card games like Slay the Spire. If not for another game is Hand of Gilgamesh. That's really good. In the Steam World universe, that is a brilliant take on Slay the Spire. But Grifflands is absolutely up there, and I totally recommend it. It's a real hidden gem, and I really, really enjoy that. Metro Exodus. This is kind of the game I got to test the PC. I know that they had the enhanced PC edition in the summer, and I got that because I knew that the graphics were supposed to be incredible in the game, and it has like really good sound and audio design. So I knew that I could like put the PC to the test with this game. Really bad Eastern European voice acting. Again, it's terrible. They just cannot seem to nail that voice acting from that part of the world. Same with Irish voice acting, really. But yeah, the game, it's just a shooter, except the Metro universe is kind of known for being in like the subways and underground like metro stations, but now they bring it above ground, and it's kind of more a little bit open worldy where you can kind of choose where you want to go. Really good game. The sound design is excellent. When you shooting guns and like the tunnel does great like reverberation sounds. The gun sounds are really tight. Really enjoy the sound design when you're wearing like good headphones. It's excellent. The game is really good as well. Story wise, it's okay. I don't really know the Metro universe, but I know that the gameplay, the moment to moment gameplay, is pretty solid. Classic game. This could easily have been in our top 3 as well. I mean, this Towers is spectacular.
It's a family game. It's absolutely brilliant. It's kind of a top-down strategy. It's another one that like you just need one, and you can invite me. We've only ever played it on your computer. I don't think
we played a couch co-op. Yeah, that's right.
So much fun. It's just you line up, like you put out like your little things, and you just send the guys going. It's a ragdoll kind of effect, which I think makes it good.
Adds a kind of a comedy element to it. It's kind of very family friendly.
You'll see, like if you look it up, like the classic is like you have like mammoths and you can shoot balloon arrows at them and let them like float away, kind of. It's really interesting because you have like from cavemen through like knights, you have like Norwegian, you have Chinese, you have vampire kind of elements. Like it's a very diverse game.
Yeah.
It's so funny when you go and like see like who can win, who can fight, and there's also the campaign kind of learning version as well.
Yeah, it's a great sandbox. It's a really good sandbox style kind of not fighting game, but I suppose you could call it like a strategy game that has simulation, that you just send these kind of funny characters towards each other, and they all have their own different stats, and some of them have shields which like negate arrows, and you need to get people that have like big axes to like cleave through them, and you can get these crazy like abilities that you don't control it. The game kind of fights itself, but you choose you place your kind of roster of silly characters, and as you can tell from like the artwork in the back, it just has that kind of like the goggle-eyed sort of like comedy. It's just a sandbox for absolute messing. So much messing to be had in this game. It's so funny. We've spent like so many hours playing this game.
We haven't done it yet.
Yeah, that's right. You can. Yeah, with their own statistics, like their own attack, defense, like their own weapons, how they fight, are they projectile? There's so much opportunity to like create. It's such a sandbox and such an open kind of game to make your own of it. And again, it kind of like Crusader Kings, there are puzzles in it that you can do, but the real fun comes in the comedy of what you make of it yourself, I think. And that's I absolutely recommend this game. I think we got it on sale again. We got a lot of games on sale, but it is so good, so good. Mini Motorways. Yeah, we were obsessed with this in late summer. Absolutely obsessed. It's such. I know that this game started on Apple Arcade as well. So basically, it's in a nutshell, you design road systems and traffic systems to get colored cars, to their colored buildings. That's it. Simple. But in its intricacies lie in how many roads go where. You only get a finite amount of road or bridges or motorway to put into certain areas around the map. You can only make so much road before you run out, and then after each in-game week, you get a new yeah, additional roads. Brilliant game. Brilliant game. That's right.
The UK Underground kind of design.
That is true.
I haven't played that one. I don't know. Did you end up?
I actually didn't play that one. I know that that's the first game. This is like the second game that the studio made.
It's going to be slightly different because they kind of it's at random where things appear, and like kind of like where the houses appear versus where their destination appears, and
Yeah,
it's a great traffic management simulator, and it's just really cozy. This is
very cozy. Yeah, very thoughtful. The designers made the game kind of a very lo-fi aesthetic, very pleasing colors. The color palette in the game is just so comfortable, and it's just, this is a real comfort food game when you just want to sit down, don't want to think about, I mean, there is strategy and thinking involved, but it's so easy to just play the game and not think of the strategy element. You could just place roads wherever you want and just see how far you get, and that's the fun of it as well. And there are obviously viable strategies that you can get as like competitive as you want about the game and try and go on and get the high scores and stuff, but for the most part it's so pleasing. The soundscapes in the game are very minimal and lo-fi-esque. It's just very kind of minimal synthy. It's very cool.
Play it. It's just
Yep.
it's so cozy. It's kind of actually one game I really want to play right now.
Yeah, honestly, yeah. Yeah, it is. It's brilliant, and it's also cheap. I got them for €7. The Metro and Motorways. Yeah, yeah. So no, that was €7 for two of them. Yeah, not each. Yeah, yeah. They were on when they were launching mini motorways. They were giving away Metro for free for the weekend if you paid €7 for it. So yeah, I got in on the ground, and it's so good. It's on Steam. I don't think it's on. I hope it comes to Switch. It would be a perfect Switch game, I think. Very cozy, sitting in the bath. You know, yeah, something. So it's possible with Switch, right? Yeah, it's possible. Yeah, Spunko. So Spunko 2, where do you even start? It's kind of like so it is the original roguelike game. The first one kind of built that community and the sort of like roguelike genre and fan base, I suppose you could say.
Yeah.
And maybe it didn't like originally come up with the concept, but it was the one that really solidified. That's how I kind of found out about roguelikes, was through the original Spelunky. And then Spelunky 2 just is so good, even though it's kind of the same game as the first one, but with different areas, biomes, some different weapons and stuff like that. We in fact didn't really play the game solo a lot. We didn't play it ourselves. I think the fun was with it when we were playing with four people, and it's a multiplayer. You can go into the same dungeons like yourself and three other people, so there could be four people in it. We played it a lot co-op, and if Spelunky is kind of, it can be, again, it's like one of those games, it can be as fun as you want or as stressful as you want. Yeah, it can just be, it's just funny, but it can be stressful. But it's funny when you're playing with more people, because more things can go wrong. And if you're playing with the right people, someone does something ridiculous, then you hate them for 2 weeks for doing it.
where you go on the game and you're brand new to the game, you don't know what they're doing, and they just run away from you, and you're just
Yeah.
sitting, you die, and then they're like, "Oh yeah, don't do that thing because you'll die." And I'm like, "Thanks for telling me."
Yeah.
Thanks.
It really is so emergent because you don't gain anything from each run in Spelunky, really. There are shortcuts that you can unlock eventually, but that's not really that. Yeah, you just kind of jump in for the crack. The It's funny because the way the system is designed, the reward is the knowledge that you gain. That sounds so profound, but it's the knowledge that you gain each run from something different happening. What does this tile do? What does this enemy do? How far down? Like, what does water do? What if I throw this bomb into lava? What will that do? And you find out how big that explosion inevitably gets and kills you, and then you have to start another 20-minute run again. We have finished it. I think you, in fact, didn't even finish it. I finished it once. I'm very sorry about that. You finished it, and it's very difficult as well. It's so difficult, the game, but it's also very fun, and it can be as fun as you want to make of it. And I think the crack and the fun of Spelunky is what you make of it with friends. It,
I
yeah,
I just, for me, wasn't really that like enjoyable as itself. Definitely when I was with you and like the other two, like it just was so much fun to go just
it is.
like because it's you're on like we threw ourselves onto Discord and we were chatting with each other, and like
Yeah.
that's where like someone's like, "Do I do this?" And we're all like, "No, don't do it." And
And
we're
then
like,
they do it anyway.
"Oh, like it's all like these, like, will I do this? Will I do that?" Like it's that's so much fun. Like
It
where
is.
it's by yourself, you kind of it's more serious. You're kind of like focusing on like trying to get as far as you can. But
Yeah.
when you're, I think you like run like you do like you guys were doing speed runs, so I was just like running behind. You're kind of like, "Oh,
We're trying to run as fast as you can, and a lot of the fun and the comedy of the game kind of comes from
quick decisions."
very quick decisions that is sometimes you don't have any control over that happen to you, and the rest let's just roll with it. Or if the party is asking, "Oh, what does this do?" and you shout, "Don't do it," but you do it anyway. That is also really fun, and it gets up to a lot of hijinks. 100% recommend Spelunky. A
Yeah.
great co-op, a great solo game, but even better with friends. Oh my god, where do I start? Deathloop. Um, yeah, Deathloop is a great game and really super ambitious. I was like hooked on it for maybe like the first 10 hours. Absolutely loved it.
You're obsessed with me too.
I was. I loved it. The world is incredible. The voice acting is incredible. The cast, the characters, the overall, yeah, aesthetic, like that 60s or maybe even like 70s. I think it's 70s. The kind of, yeah, sort of vibe. Really good. And I'm a huge fan of Dishonored. So when Arcane were coming out with this, I was like, I gotta get on that. Um, then I feel like after the first 10 hours of the game, I feel the wheels kind of come off, and that veneer of sort
Yeah.
of mysterious puzzle game that has loads of multiple different endings sort of completely comes off the rails. And I feel like you hit a power spike way too early in the game, like way too early, where you find the best guns in the game quite easily, like, and very early in the game you can have access to like the best guns, and then when you find them about 6 hours in, like I did, the game kind of becomes this kind of power fantasy where you don't fear death or losing anymore because you are just so incredibly powerful that the game is kind of becomes doom, and you're just blowing through each level to try and get to the next episode in the loop or the next section where you need to progress the loop. And the loop is kind of presented in the marketing of the game. They're presented of this is this kind of like puzzle to be solved, and you can do it any way you want. But it kind of really isn't. When you start playing it, you kind of realize that you are kind of very much guided along one single track to solve this puzzle, and it's very linear, even though the game builds itself as this kind of intricate solve it any way you want sort of Return of the Obra Dinn, kind of the Outer Wilds style like puzzle game, even though it's not really that. It kind of really is just a power fantasy game in the guise of a mystery kind of puzzle game. It's very straightforward, and that's my only issue with it. Is that also I got this on PC when it first released, and it is well known for having launch day bugs and glitches, and the game crashed on me a lot of times. That's not ideal. You kind of lose maybe an hour's progress, which is the worst of it. I lost maybe an hour's progress here or there, maybe 2 or 3 times, which is annoying. Yeah,
Venting
I
slightly.
was, but that didn't even turn me off the game. The actual the technical. It was when I realized that the story wasn't really going anywhere, and that I wasn't having fun because I felt so powerful that I didn't fear any sort of remorse for the game. Like if the game killed me. The very rare times that it did, I think I only died maybe twice. Now, I didn't play it online where Juliana can invade your game. I'm not really into that multiplayer, like far too sweaty. But when that happened, it was just the AI didn't really react to a lot of the stuff you did. It was very easy to kind of like, it didn't have that sort of inventive or emergent gameplay that Dishonored is kind of known for, where you can kind of do whatever you want, and you can kind of uh, create the a game within a game kind of meta. It didn't have that. It kind of was just kind of linear. I mean, it does offer that, but I don't think the game is what it says it is. It doesn't. It's billed as this big murder mystery. Do play the game however you want, but it really is just very linear, and it becomes very power driven. Way too early, you get access to the best guns, and it doesn't reward. It rewards exploration when it shouldn't. So you spend about, I remember the first 2 or 3 hours, I spent about 2 or 3 hours in the first biome, and I scoured everything because I didn't know when to move on and when not, so I wanted to explore everything. And then I found everything in that level, and then when you come back to that level at a different time, maybe one or two things are changed, but for the most part the weapons were the same, the locations were the same, the characters were the same. Like it was pretty much the same thing. So I had explored this one section of the, I think there's 4 worlds. I explored one world in its entirety in its first 2 hours. And then every time I kept going back there, I felt like I'd seen it before again and again. And unlike Loop Hero, this loop went to death. Next up, baby. No comment. Next. Dusk. Yeah, classic kind of sort of Doom inspired. I hate that word, but Doom inspired, like FPS kind of the 90s. Really good. I think the best thing about Dusk is that, first of all, it has the whole trappings of that kind of first person shooter in the Doom era, except it's bombing fast, lightning quick. But the soundtrack is so metal. It's metal as hell, and it's so good. I was listening to the soundtrack before I even bought the game. In fact, listening to the soundtrack encouraged me to buy the game. I came across it on YouTube after listening to a Doom soundtrack, and that was my related post. Went into it. I was like, wow, this kicks ass. So I bought the game. So that was kind of cool. Now, here we go. Scythe Digital Edition. Yeah, there's a lot to be said about this, and it's a brilliant reimagining of the actual board game itself. I think it's brilliant. You enjoy the board game, I know. It's very big,
Really enjoyed
very
it.
intimidating board game, but even you didn't even jump into, after like a 2 year hiatus, didn't jump into the tutorial. You were just straight in, baby. I want to go for this.
Again, I think when it comes into these sort of turn-based games, like it's a turn-based kind of board game style setup on obviously digital, and again, like with Root, it prompts you kind of what you can and can't do. Like this isn't as much of a prompt; it's more so of a you can't do this unless you have this. So it's good
Yeah,
to plan out like you're like what do you need and like where are you going with your role and like it's very good, and again it's one that like only one person needs to have it and they can invite other people to play it, which I think is the most like the best selling point of it,
absolutely.
because like as we all know, like we haven't been able to go out kind of and have large groups of people in Scythe. We have like, well, you have the Scythe board game plus the expansion pack, and I
Yeah,
remember before, like, God, this is a throwback to 2020 March.
it really is.
Before we went into lockdown, and I was so like, I was really glad actually when you got the digital edition because it's just nice.
Yeah, honestly, it really is. It's just nice. And it's a great, like I was saying, it's a great interpretation of the board game. It's easy to use. The UI is nice. It's friendly. It's you clearly know what you have to do each
Yeah.
time. Yeah, it's just a great imagining of the board game. That's all I can say. And also got it for €7, unlike the €90 game and then the €30 additions to that game. But Scythe is great because it's a really good social game, and it's not too heavy of a board game for people to understand. It's not easy going, but if you're into strategy games, I think it's easy. It's easy going, and that concludes all the games,
I think that's
the
pretty
bonus
much
games,
the
the extra
like
games. Yes, yeah.
the honorable mention that I want to throw in, and I thought it was only like recently for so that we don't have actually thing is Potioncraft.
Oh yes,
So
Potioncraft.
we definitely
Yeah,
I really enjoyed it. It's on
it's a great
Steam.
game.
Steam at the moment. I
I
don't think
think
it's
so.
on Epic or any of the others. And I think it's only PC right now. It's a beautiful kind of brown paper kind of bag style drawing
Yeah,
stuff, and it is so nice. It's just a cozy game. You end up having like this top down exploration of like you can go to a garden and collect like it's very interactive. Like you collect ingredients, you mix the ingredients, and you go through like different kind of actions in order to create different potions.
yeah,
So like healing ones, fire ones, and then you sell them in a shop, and it's just
mm,
it's very diverse. Like even the demo had so much in it
it
to
did.
do that I like we were so excited for the release to like get it
Yeah.
and play it, and it's one that I really enjoy, and I think it's definitely one that like 2022 is going to be like a big one for a full exploration, because I've only like dabbled in a bit of it, but I want more.
Oh yeah, I would definitely consider buying this on a full release, and I'm very surprised we haven't bought this yet. I think just
Just
you know
playing
when
demo for
time escapes from you,
two games,
too many games. 2022, baby, next year.